Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. You're going to have a look at weather next week's 10 days for today's video. So it takes us into the middle part of February, actually into the second half of the month. We get sent out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. So there's just a few hints within the model output that we may in around a week to 10 days time be looking at some height rises to our east initially, possibly turning wind into the east. It doesn't look like it's going to be a particularly cold easterly though, not much sign of a beast from the east, but we might get sort of a gentle slack easterly. But where that high pressure goes is quite interesting. There's just a few hints. As we get towards the final week of February, we might start to retrogress the high pressure towards Greenland. Perhaps a few hints of a little bit of retrogression. But this is all a very long way out. Of course, it's only the 7th of February today. We're talking about kind of like days 10 through to 14, that sort of time frame. So it's a really long way out. And excuse me, we've been here before with this winter that the more extended output has tended to want to bring us cold weather and build up the heights over Greenland. But we've never been able to put it off up to this point. Maybe as we get towards the end of winter, we will put it off. But I think we need to keep very, very much our feet on the ground with this at the moment. We'll just see how things pan out. But I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments very shortly. Before I do anything else, I've got to say a big thank you to our latest donor. So we've had a new donation through PayPal. So our latest PayPal donor is Luke Bruce. A big thank you to Luke Bruce for becoming Gazov's latest PayPal donor. If you would like to become a PayPal donor and have a mention in the vids, then all you need to do is come to Gazov's.me PayPal page, sign into your PayPal account, which most people have one of those these days. And then you can send through whatever amount you would like to Gazov's as a one-off donation. We'll say big thank you to you in the videos. You get a shout out as long as you want one. If you'd rather stay anonymous, then just leave a little note with your donation to tell us that you would prefer to stay anonymous, and that's absolutely fine. We'll do that. We'll just say big thank you to this anonymous donor. That's how you become a PayPal donor. Big thank you to Luke Bruce for becoming our latest PayPal donor. Of course, there's also patrons. So if you would like to become a patron for Gazov's, then all you need to do is come to the Gazov's Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, and then the idea of this is like an ongoing donation. So if you'd like to give an ongoing monthly donation to Gazov's, it could be anything as little as $1 a month upwards. It doesn't have to be a large amount of money at all. You just pledge whatever amount of money you would like as a one-off, as a monthly donation. And by doing that, you become a patron for Gazov's, and you'll get a mention in videos. We've got 60 patrons so far. Big thank you to all of the patrons for Gazov's, and hello to all of you. Hello to all of the PayPal donors as well. So that's how you can give a donation to Gazov's. You can either do it through PayPal or through Patreon. Big thank you to all of the donors and all of the patrons for Gazov's, and a special thank you to Luke Bruce for becoming our latest donor. Right, so we've had a picture sent through to us by Jay Bucket in Huntley, Aberdeenshire, near the Cairngorms. This is how things were looking a couple of days ago. Pretty deep snow. Jay told me that they had around 7 or 8 inches of snow on Friday. They had another 3 inches or so on Sunday. So I think it was taken Monday morning. And pretty deep by that point, so I suppose up to around 12, 13 inches of snow by that point up there in the Cairngorms. If you would like to have your pictures featured in the videos, you'll have pictures, then all you need to do, several ways you can do them. You can share them with us on our social media pages, Facebook and Twitter. We link to all of those pages at Gazov's and in the description at YouTube. You can also share them on our comment section at Gazov's, or you can email them to us at gazov's@gmail.com. When we've got time, we're always happy to feature your pictures in the videos. A big thank you to Jay for sending that picture through, and big thank you to all the people who've been sending their pictures through over the past few weeks or so. Right, so we've got our next named storm. This is the tweet from the UK Met Office that was put out earlier on today, telling us that we have our next named storm for this autumn-winter season. So, hashtag Storm Eric has been named by Met Aaron, in Ireland, of course, for the area of low pressure arriving on Friday. Impacts will be greatest across Ireland, though warnings are in force across parts of the UK. Stay weather aware, hashtag. So this is how Storm Eric is forecast to develop over the next 24 hours or so. Here it comes, moving into Ireland and then bringing wet and windy weather across the UK through the course of tomorrow, out of the way by the time you get through to Saturday, by which time things will be calming down. So what sort of wind gusts can we expect from Storm Eric? This is from the weatheroutlook.com. So these are the wind gust speeds in miles per hour. It's a pretty blowy afternoon out there this afternoon, actually. Wind speeds around 25-30 miles an hour across many parts of the country. As we go through into tonight, here come the high winds into Ireland at midnight and also up the Irish Sea. Wind gusts going to around 50 miles an hour up the Irish Sea, so very blowy through there. Into tomorrow morning, this is 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, very windy up the Irish Sea. By then we've got gale force gusts going up to 60 miles an hour, and more than that actually down there in the far southwest of Ireland. It looks like we're going above 60 miles an hour there. Then through tomorrow morning, those high winds extending eastward. So it's suggesting severe gales for parts of the west of the Republic of Ireland and also the west of Northern Ireland by that point, seeing gusts going to 70 miles an hour. That's severe gale force. We've got 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts pushing in across many parts of England and Wales, so properly windy through tomorrow morning. And then those strong winds extending eastward, so southwestern Scotland get some severe gales at midday tomorrow as gale force winds are pushing across England and Wales. Again, gusts up to 50 or 60 miles an hour throughout. Temperature, the gusts up in far north of Scotland, they don't look as high up there, so not as bad for wind across the far north of Scotland until tomorrow afternoon, and then the wind does start to pick up even there. But worse of winds moving away from east and south east England, still staying windy tomorrow afternoon, but not quite as windy as it is through the morning. Gusts of wind generally between around 40 and 50 miles an hour through the course of tomorrow evening. Another bout of very strong winds through the central belt of Scotland, you'll notice. 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. Again, widespread gusts between around 50 and 70 miles an hour, something like that, going through the central belt of Scotland. So that will be potentially quite impactful through there. As we go into Saturday, generally the worst of winds gradually pulling away into the North Sea. It stays pretty blowy, but generally the worst of winds ease during the course of Saturday. So we're in for a pretty wild spell of weather. Looks like the west of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and southwest Scotland get the worst of the wind through tomorrow morning, where gusts could go up to severe gale force, above 70 miles an hour. Generally, we're talking about sort of 60 to 70 miles an hour up the Irish Sea, and parts of England and Wales seeing gusts between around 40 to 60 miles an hour through the course of tomorrow. So it does look like a pretty wild spell of weather that's going to be coming up from just named Storm Eric. Right, so this is how the Arctic Oscillation Observed and Forecast chart is looking. We've been keeping an eye on this through the week. It's starting to look quite interesting. The black line here tells us where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. Just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It's not driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. When the Arctic Oscillation is negative, you're going to have high pressure blocking up over the pole. When the Arctic Oscillation is positive, you're going to have low pressure up over the pole, and consequently you'll be strengthening the westerly winds. Where we are right now with the Arctic Oscillation is just weakly negative. So we was pretty negative actually with the AO around the start of the month. Been trending upwards over the past few days. It's going to go positive very shortly. The next day or so, the Arctic oscillation will go positive. And we're going to go into a positive phase, actually, as we go into next week. The AO is really strengthening its positive signal. But you'll notice now, as we go into the middle and the second half of February, we are very quickly seeing a big drop in the Arctic oscillation being forecast by the GFS ensemble. So this change to a more positive AO doesn't look like it's going to last very long at all, and it looks like it'll be very quickly that will be going back into a negative AO again as we get towards the middle and then the second half of February. There are several ensemble members that are really dropping quite a lot as well, so it's looking like quite a significant flip to, first of all, a positive AO and then back into a negative AO once again. It could be signs of blocking beginning to emerge across the North Pole as we get through into the second half of February. At the same time, this is the North Atlantic oscillation. So again, the black line tells us where we've been with the NAO. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. At the moment, we are weakly positive, or in positive territory with the NAO. GFS ensembles are forecasting us to stay in positive territory with the NAO over the next week. You'll notice, though, it does look as though the NAO is now starting to move a little bit. I think there's around a 50-50 split between the GFS ensemble members that are keeping the NAO positive and the GFS ensemble members that are turning the NAO negative. We haven't seen much negativity at all of the NAO this winter. This has so far been a positive NAO winter. We just had one episode there around New Year where we did get a couple of days of negativity of the North Atlantic oscillation, but generally the NAO since the start of December just here has been trending either around neutral or more latterly in genuinely positive territory. But this does look as though the NAO could be starting to shift. Now bear in mind, this period would be kind of like the unreliable time frame of the model. So all this here is kind of like the reliable time frame of the GFS model and its ensemble. So within the next week or so. So the shift that looks like it might be about to take place in the NAO is kind of like in week 2, which is the unreliable time frame. But nevertheless, we need to keep an eye on it. It might be the very first signs that the NAO is about to shift. We haven't really had a pronounced period of negative NAO since back into the autumn. So these indexes normally run in blocks of around 2 or 3 months. I suppose now would be around the time you would start thinking the NAO might begin to shift. But I think we need to wait a few more days before we can say definitively that the NAO is on the move. But it does look a little bit more interesting now from both an AO and NAO perspective. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet, is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue extrapolates to low pressure. So in the 7 to 10 day time frame, the ECM is placing an area of above average heights, that's high pressure of course, to our northeast. And this is bringing in a gentle, slack sort of easterly flow. Now this is not a beast from the east. The reason is that the high pressure for a beast from the east needs to be more up here really, and you need to have a much tighter gradient between low pressure down here across southern Europe, and then you start to bring in a long fetch east wind. It's not that, but it is a colder easterly type flow. It's a slack sort of gentle easterly easterly flow that could be bringing in some wintry showers to eastern parts of the country anyway. Now, if this high pressure starts to retrogress, we will take it from east to west. up towards Greenland, and that is how we would then start to pull in much colder weather, because we centre the high pressure around Greenland and we start to drop down much colder air from the north. There's no sign of that on the 500 millibar height anomaly flow chart, which finishes at day 10, but there are just a few hints in the more extended range output that something like that could happen. This is how the GFS is looking, and again we find that in the 7 to 10 day time frame we've got this area of above average heights extending through the UK and going up to our east as well. That's a large ridge of high pressure that's covering most of northern and western Europe. Again, we're probably bringing in quite a slack, sort of gentle easterly type flow. It certainly isn't a beast from the east. It's not a long fetch easterly. And actually, under that ridge of high pressure, by day, it could possibly feel quite mild and pleasant, but of course, by night, it may have frost and fog to contend with. I think both models, the takeaway from both models, is probably that high pressure looks like it's building in, though, and a lot of dry weather, I think, as we get through to next week. It does look as though both of them have high pressure well and truly in control. So, high and dry, again, next week. How often have we said that over the past few months? So these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're looking at Portsmouth today, another suggested place on our list of locations for this section of the video. So we're starting at the moment quite mild. Upper air temperatures are going to be above average through to the weekend. Then they're going to drop later in the weekend, becoming quite cold just briefly around sort of sunny Monday, and then after that we see the upper air temperatures are picking up again through the course of next week, but it's associated with high pressure, so it might not necessarily be all that mild down on the surface. It will depend on the exact position of that ridge of high pressure. As we look ahead towards the final week to 10 days of February, shorter month in February, of course, so the final 10 days of the month really is around the 18th onwards, and it's this period just here. We do see a bit of a cooling trend, actually. We have got several ensemble members that are going genuinely cold in this period. Many of the ensemble members are cooling down as well. I think you can see that quite clearly from where most of the ensemble members are just there to where most of them are around here. There's clearly a cool down taking place as we go into the final week to 10 days of February, with some of those ensemble members looking really very cold. We do still have some milder outlier members up here, but they are outliers. The trend within the GFS ensembles is to start turning things colder, I think, as we reach the final week to 10 days of February. A lot of dry weather coming up, so the next couple of days we'll have plenty of rain in Portsmouth, but after that, from around next week onwards, we really do see quite a drying trend there. Looks like we're going to be in for a lot of dry weather from the middle of February onwards. Temperature anomalies from the 7th to the 15th of February, very close to average, maybe a little bit above, so reasonably mild week coming up. Precipitation anomalies from the 7th to the 15th of February, a little bit on the unsettled cycle. We've got to get the next few days out of the way when it is going to be unsettled before we go into that drying trend. I'm going to expect these charts to trend drier over the next few days. This is the midnight run of the GFS. So this is how the GFS midnight operational run was looking. Into the weekend, it's unsettled. We've got this little secondary area of low pressure coming in on Saturday night, Sunday morning that we're keeping an eye on. The ECM yesterday was suggesting there could be a little bit of a snow event with that across parts of Wales and Midlands. It's backed away from that quite a lot. GFS was never really going for it. Maybe a little bit of hill snow overnight, Saturday into Sunday, but I don't think anything too disruptive is going to happen. Famous last words, of course, and we will keep an eye on it. Whatever happens with that low pressure is going to move away to our east during Sunday, and that will turn wind into a northerly. So through the course of Sunday into Monday, it gets colder. We pull down those cold northerly winds. Then we build this ridge up across the country as we go through to Tuesday. That'll bring a lot of dry weather. And still pretty cold, actually. There'll be some quite hard overnight frost, I think, early next week, particularly so in the south. To the middle of next week, milder air is trying to infiltrate from the north and west. I'm not sure how much progress that makes into the south and southeast. Notice we're ridging this high pressure through central Europe up to northern parts of Europe, so it's trying to get itself up towards Scandinavia. Certainly would be milder for western and northern parts of the country with an increase in cloud, but over in the east and the southeast, that could still be fairly chilly actually through to the middle of next week. Now, that's how things look at the end of next week on the midnight GFS run. This is Friday the 15th of February. Proper Scandinavian high is in there. It's having a really good go at turning the wind into the east. That is bringing in a slack, sort of gentle easterly flow. But it just doesn't quite come off. And what we finish up with by day 10 is just this area of high pressure sitting very close to the country, still bringing a lot of dry and settled weather, probably quite mild as well, up to northern parts of the country. Now, in the extended range, look what the midnight run of the GFS did with that high pressure. It starts to move it to our north, and it takes it up to Greenland. So we're a very long way out now. We're 348 hours out. But we've got a genuine Greenland high there sitting to our north, and we're pulling down a really cold northerly wind as well, starting to, and so that's going into a very cold spell of weather right at the very end of the midnight run of the GFS. That will bring really cold conditions to many parts of the country, probably quite a bit of snow up in the north, and some fairly hard overnight frost would be expected with that also. So the GFS midnight run did end on a very cold and potentially quite wintry note. This is all a really long way out though. This is like 2 weeks away, so we do need to stay very, very cautious with it. So the next thing we do is see how the 6 o'clock GFS operational run is looking. So that's just there. And again, on Sunday, this is 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, we've got this area of low pressure that's developed across the southern part of the country. Could well bring a lot of heavy rain overnight, Saturday into Sunday down in the south. Don't rule out the chance of a little bit of snow on the northern edge of that, but I think it'd be primarily over the highest ground of like Wales and North Midlands, those sort of areas. But we will keep an eye on it. It will come into the time frame of the high resolution models tomorrow, so we'll probably know a little bit more about this feature tomorrow. As that low moves away, it will turn the wind into the north, so we'll see these cold northerly winds moving down across the country Sunday into Monday. Monday will be a cold day under this little ridge of high pressure. And that high pressure sticks around, particularly for England and Wales on Tuesday, bringing a lot of dry but also frosty weather. The north and west will turn a little bit milder as we start to pick up these southwesterly winds. And we go into the second half of next week. Again, we've got this build of high pressure over into the east of the country, trying to get itself up towards Scandinavia. Not quite managing to pull it off, so we just keep this area of high pressure going in the south. Not sure how much mild air we push down to the south through next week. That ridge stays very close to southern southeast parts of the country, so it could stay cold throughout much of next week, certainly with night frost, the parts of southern and southeastern Britain. Most places do turn milder though, particularly in the north and west as we pick up these Atlantic winds. We get to day 10 and we've just got a big area of high pressure sitting over the top of the country on Sunday the 17th of February. So that's bringing a lot of dry weather, of course, into that area of high pressure. Probably relatively mild, particularly for northern areas. Does the 6 o'clock GFS run get that high pressure up to Greenland? Well, it has a go at it, definitely. It does try to get it to Greenland. Doesn't quite get it that far north. So it gets it up towards northern parts of Scotland. That starts to pulling colder northeasterly winds. We're just on the periphery of those cold northeast winds, and that's how we finish up at the end of that GFS run, which is Saturday 23rd of February. High pressure kind of like centred over the top of the UK. Hasn't got the high pressure to Greenland. Did have a go at doing it. Most parts of Europe are looking very cold though at that point. We're just on the edge of it. So if I just show you the upper air temperatures, you see there's quite a big cold pool sitting across many central parts of Europe, just on the edge of that. So we don't need to stay about high pressure just that little bit further northwestwards. Instead of centering it kind of like there, if we centered it more there, then we would pull those cold northeasterly winds into the UK. So we're talking about charts that are like 2 weeks away, so this is a really, really long time out. But it does appear that something might be shifting within the model output for this final week to 10 days of February. But we have been here before through this winter. ECM looks like that. So again, we've got that little feature across the south on Saturday night into Sunday, probably bringing a heavy rain to the south. It gets out of the way, we pull the winds into the north, so we get this cold northerly to start next week. Then high pressure's building through the country. That's middle of next week, Wednesday. Notice not as much of an Atlantic influence through the middle of next week with the ECMWF. It's keeping that high pressure centred more or less over the UK, not allowing much of that milder air to infiltrate in from off the Atlantic Ocean up to the middle of next week anyway. And this takes us to the end of next week, where again we've got that high pressure building over Scandinavia. We never really introduce any milder air from off the Atlantic at the second half of next week, and actually we're pulling the wind into quite a chilly, maybe even quite a cold, slack and gentle easterly. We go up towards day 10, and that's how we're looking. So high pressure is still there over Scandinavia. Again, this is not a beast from the east. I hope you're thinking this is unleashing the beast. It isn't. It's just a slack, gentle easterly that will probably, if it comes off, be quite cold. Probably cold enough to produce snow flurries on the east coast. But very little more than that at this point. So I think it's where that high pressure goes beyond this that could be the most interesting factor. These are the GFS, the ECM, I should say, ensembles, postage stamp ensembles from the Icelandic Met Office. So these are the options that are on the table at day 10 within the ECM ensembles. This is for the 17th of February. So we've got 14 ensemble members, including the control run of the ECM that has high pressure up to our north, extending from Greenland to Scandinavia. Low pressure is over the south and southwest of the country, so there's a proper battle going on there. Low pressure is trying to bring up milder air from the south, but the high pressure to the north is trying to bring in these cold sort of easterly winds. Where that goes is quite interesting to speculate, of course. We've got another 12 ensemble members that have high pressure almost centred over the top of the UK, but does back it a little bit towards the east, kind of like towards Denmark. So they're mainly settled, probably quite cold too. A gentle sort of easterly flow would be moving in with those. There's 11 members of the ECM ensembles at day 10 that have low pressure just out to the west-northwest of the UK. They're bringing in a milder westerly flow. And then there's another 11, including the operational run, the run we're just looking at from the ECM, that has high pressure kind of like to the north and northeast. These are cold and dry scenarios, bringing in those easterly winds. And then finally there's a minority option of 3 that have high pressure to our south, low pressures in the middle of the Atlantic. They're unsettled and they're bringing up very mild southwesterly winds too. Now, out of all of these options, we've got these 14 that look like they could potentially be quite cold and wintry. These ones these 12 that are dry and cold, and these 11, including the operational, that are pretty blocked as well and probably quite cold. With just these 11 and these 3 shaving up to be milder and more unsettled. So it does look as though by day 10 the ECM ensembles are shifting towards a colder, sort of a colder scenario. And that's how things look in 2 weeks' time with the ECM ensembles. This is for the 22nd of February. So we've got 20 members of the ECM ensembles that are producing a Greenland high and extending that, blocking over towards Scandinavia too. They have low pressure down here. These are potentially quite wintry ensemble members. So you've got the high pressure bringing in those cold easterly winds, but you've got the low pressure down to southwest trying to push up milder conditions from off the Atlantic. Of course, in between, you're going to have weather fronts that are going to be strung out, and potentially as they meet that cold air, those weather fronts could be producing snow. So those 20 could be quite cold and wintry options. We've got 12 that have high pressure to the north of Scotland, somewhere between Greenland and Scandinavia. These look mainly dry and cold. They're bringing in a wind from an easty direction as well. We've got 11 that have a Greenland high. Look at that. They've got above average heights towards Greenland. They're bringing down cold north or northeasterly winds. And then finally, there's 8, a minority option, that are a lot milder and more unsettled with low pressure just to the north of Scotland. And they're maintaining an Atlantic flow, but they look very isolated actually, and by 2 weeks out it does look as though the ECM ensembles, if you take those 20, those 12 and these 11, it does look as though by 2 weeks out, 22nd of February, the ECM ensembles have shifted today towards more blocking and colder conditions. I'll just leave you with this from the forecaster Michael Ventris. So Michael Ventris works for Weather Services International, I think. This is a tweet Michael tweeted this morning saying that the highly touted February negative NAO may finally be on the horizon. Hashtag NAO is coming. I would have thought that's supposed to be negative NAO is coming, but never mind. Hashtag NAO is coming. And he has put out with that an ensemble mean chart for 360 hours. So of course this is the 360-hour time frame, 2 weeks away, which of course is the 22nd of February. And this is the ensemble mean chart looking from America downs. But I've downloaded that chart and flipped it round so we can see it from our side, so from like the Atlantic and European side. And this is the ensemble mean within the ECM ensembles for 2 weeks out, and definitely signs of a negative AO and NAO. It's got the blocking across Greenland, it's got the low pressure through the middle of the Atlantic around the Azores and going into southern parts of Europe. The jet stream, of course, is going to be down here going into the Mediterranean. And with this blocking up around Greenland, we could be forcing out cold or potentially very cold air from the north or the northeast. That's the ensemble mean. So that's taking all of these individual members of the ECM ensembles together and creating a mean chart out of all of them. And, well, it does look as though the ECM ensembles have had quite a big shift today towards a cold sort of final week to 10 days of February. Now, this is all extended range stuff, so it's unreliable. It may well be we're being led up the garden path once again, as we have been so often through this winter. But we can only say what we're seeing in the model output. And at the moment today, the model output has shifted towards a negative AO, NAO type scenario, towards northern blocking, getting going around Greenland in particular. Starts off across Scandinavia and retrogresses to Greenland. And just the hints are there. In a couple of weeks' time, we may finally begin to lock in to that cold spell that we've been anticipating throughout the winter. And really hasn't come off. But we shall wait and see where this goes. So that's it for today's videos. Tomorrow, of course, we'll have another look at week to 10-day time frame, and we'll have JMA Friday for you as well, which will be your month ahead look ahead. So come back for all the videos tomorrow. But that's all for today's videos. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.